Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Cosmic Surface. Bit more of a subdued one today, just because that's how I'm feeling. I'm hot on the back of Mark Passio's shadow work course. Started at 2 a.m. for me. It was quite a big time, a lot of energy, I guess you would say. Had some stuff going on with a friend in the lead up to it, related to the topic, I guess you would say. Lost my voice physically, and the course started at 2 a.m. my time. So I'm going to go back through it again. One of the things I got out of it was that there is some simple processes to take a pragmatic approach at shadow work, um, improving your life, and taking a good hard look at yourself. All of the things that we already know, it's been done to death in shadow work, but the kind of the simplicity and the pragmatic straightforwardness is something that I've always appreciated about Mark's work. I don't want to give too much of a like a review now or anything like that, because I don't really feel like I'm in a position to do that until I've really gone through the work properly. I'll say that the same old stuff keeps popping up in the groups, which is just how it is. I think there's no denying that the state of the truth and freedom movement is an absolute hellhole. So, it's no surprises that the people that do know are escalating, and that things are moving forward rapidly. And I know that we can say that. I know that there's always going to be, we can take a high thought on this. We can raise our vibration. We can do deeper integrative work and all of that. But the truth of the matter is that we all need to speak to truth to evil in the face of the current condition that we find ourselves in. So that's how it is. And so what I want to do today to kind of keep it light a little bit. Which one of the things I want to do here on Cosmic Surf is something that I've learned a little bit from Mark Passio. But what I'm trying to do here is I want to build foundations of different pieces of knowledge. People that have well studied, connecting it with what I know from the different things that I've studied. Over the years, and a lot of my personal stuff, others may view as anecdotal or whatever, but it is part of the objective truth. But a lot of what I do comes from direct experiential wisdom. My modalities, whether it's rebirthing breath work, plant dietas and shamanic work, more nature-based, living on songlines and sacred sites and being a custodian of land, or similar such experiences. And at the same time, I am spending a lot of time studying, and I do have a lot to learn in a whole wide array of topics. And I'm also doing the best that I can in business world, which is bringing agent-centric peer-to-peer media to the world, so that we can publish and share it out without being censored. And I know that that's something that I don't really want to get into here, because this is my personal channel, and this is I just want to be free to talk about all of this stuff. But that is also what I'm working on in the background, and that will I'll bring it to light in due course. And then also, just as a kind of a bit of an update for Cosmic Surface, it's a newer channel. I've been thinking about doing this for 10 years or so. Spent time traveling Egypt. Was going to make a documentary on it. Pulled out of it. And I've got a lot of thoughts on that, which I'll share. But basically, things weren't aligned, and some of the people involved, and also some personal stuff that was going on at the time. And so, here we are. And all the point I was getting to there was that I do see myself traveling in the near future across the world, going to the ancient sites, potentially on a motorbike, putting that out there, but open to whatever happens, changing my life up, and going out and being on country, tuning into the sites, man, and seeing and studying what comes up for me, using what I've learned for my own meditative practices to connect in. Dadiri is what the Indigenous in Australia would call it, deep listening. And yeah, just kind of a little bit about me. I haven't really gone into it a whole lot here yet, but I guess if you want to get into the spiritual stuff, I've spent 10 years completing 4 vision quests in the Toltec tradition that comes from Mexico. I did it in Colombia with my sweat lodge grandmother there. Spent a fair bit of time in the Amazon, and lived in Asia for a while. And now I live in Australia and in the UK, on a sacred mountain here, and then on the tour in Glastonbury. And interestingly, the ancient, timelines, the occult, just the hidden, all of these kind of things come up more and more. Paganism's been very popular now. And yeah, so quite familiar with all of that. More so from living with my ex, who was a herbalist and would make tinctures and run ceremonies and medicine woman and these kind of things. And yeah, one of the things that I'm really focusing on right now is care, self-care, and care for all of you guys. So welcome, subscribe, and just know that my intentions here are to really focus on causal factors, the things that I've learned from the people that we're going through, including people like Mark Passio, including others that I've connected with over the years, but also to bring my own work out, because that's what it's really about. This is about not about following anyone, but this is about getting my own message out there, and that's on natural law, being an organic human, striving and making changes to live an objectively moral life and to have a healed worldview. And yeah, so that's a bit of that, and you'll hear in these videos me kind of giving bits and pieces over time, and maybe I'll do a bit of a roundup video as we go along. I'm easing into this as I'm learning on the fly. So one of the topics that we've been covering has been Tesla kind of technology, I guess you would say, breakthrough technology called fusion, Aneutronic Fusion, 0-point energy, and so forth. And I do believe that's one of the keys to unlocking nature of reality, I guess you would say, because it's really like fuck with our perceptions, because nature's out there, we can observe it, and yet we have very little understanding of and comprehension of how it works. And that's why I'm drawn to the ancient sites, because you start getting into the ancient sites, you start getting into megalithic machinery that was able to do megalithic work, in however you want to look at it, levitating rocks using sound resonance, great mathematical qualities with everything being lined up. And it speaks to different periods in time. Again, time, cycles of time, constant cycles of evolution and devolution. And now we're getting into time technology, and it seems like that's probably already. It has already been. They've already got technology devices that are able to go beyond time and space. We know that. Now we're dealing with things like retrocausality, which is the ability to go back in time. And so now we're starting to get into future humans as in operating in our current, reality. So kind of they live style a little bit, I guess. But as the world kind of opens up to being more wackier, so to speak, I think that really dives into knowing thyself which is a big part of natural law. One of the things that George Cavassos would say, for example, like, go on some of his courses. He runs one on reality management. He started running that a number of years ago. He could see it coming. How do you tune into your heart, soul, essence, so you're connecting into the organic fractal nature of reality, so that you can perceive things how they truly are. And one of the things I've learned from George is that to ask for what is real. And in Mark Passio's way of thinking, in the apophatic, that would be by eliminating what is not real. And so, what do these two guys have in common? And even though I don't think they even know each other, is that even though they take completely different looks at it and they probably disagree in a bunch, they do talk about shadow work going in, all of that. So, one of the things that comes up with Tesla technology, and it's very prevalent right now, because I do believe that they're rolling it out, but they're giving us a bullshit version of it. I do believe that it's already been weaponized against us. I do believe that they are weaponizing it, or have been doing it since Nazism before. Rewatched Mark Passio's Dark Occult Origins of Nazism and Communism, and I'm learning a lot about that. So, the history, I didn't know. So, learning a lot about that. And then, like with the dark occultists being ancient psychologists, what we and like what the idea is there is that, knowing that even if the Nazis won the war, that they would lose in the medium to long term anyway, so they went underground, not physically, or maybe, but not in that sense, but they essentially figured out that a longer term plan would be to essentially mind fuck the world, and it's looking like they've done a pretty good job, if that's indeed what happened. So one of the tenets here is obviously, to admit when you're wrong. I'm not trying to claim that I'm the be all and end all of anything. What I'm doing is looking at pieces of information, and one of the things that we can do is look at a wide variety of pieces of information, even if they aren't fully correct, and then we can draw out the wisdom from that. And so, any and all subjects are ready to go. So in the future, I do want to get into some ancient site stuff. I do want to get into some more body related stuff with movements. One of the guys I can recommend is Benny Ferguson, my movement coach from Movement Monk, and they're doing a lot of nervous system work. I find that's very beneficial. And so all of these things are. And so, that's a little bit of what's coming up for me at the moment. I guess, just want to say, for anyone out there listening, if you see like a lot of what's going on in the world, and you're starting to get a little bit apathetic or disillusioned, it's always a good, I know this is easier said than done, but one of the things that we can do is we can take responsibility for ourselves, and we can start to take actions in our own life in ever which way we can. So for what I've learned, doing this kind of work with media is a great way of evolving that process, getting that work out there. So here we are, cosmic surfers, a term that comes from Kemet, riding the cosmic waves. So what does Tesla have to say about that? You know what? Just give me 1 second, because I'm going to put another video on first, which is actually what we need to have happen for free energy to become a thing. Now, these are both of these videos, and we'll watch a quick documentary on Mark Passio after this, just because I'm in the mood. Just give me 1 second if I don't find it. Yes, here we go. Okay.
It's called Scarcity to Abundance. What will it take to make Tesla's dream a reality? And this presentation may be a little bit hard for some people to hear today. Not everybody may be ready for it, and that's okay. I'm going to say the things I'm going to say anyway. And
this is just a quick one. It's just 18 minutes or so, and then we'll get into the dark side of Tesla technology. But I just wanted to kind of get Passio's breakdown on what he perceives needs to happen.
Perhaps they will be seeds that will perhaps sprout and grow at a future time. This is the goal that we're all here for. We say that we want free energy, and I emphasize the word say because there's oftentimes a lot of opposition between our thoughts and our actions, what we will do to make that reality actually come about and manifest itself. So this is what we want. We want to do away with the current unsustainable, controlled energy paradigm, okay? I call it the scarcity paradigm. It's controlled energy. It's ecologically polluting and unsustainable. It's based in the fear of scarcity. It perpetuates dependency. It is maintained by violence, exploitation, and imperialism. It promotes the separation worldview that nature is ours to conquer. It stagnates human evolutionary progression. It's completely immoral because it is in opposition to spiritual law. And it will ultimately lead to total slavery for humanity if we do not dissuade from going down this course. Conversely, we can give birth to the free energy paradigm or the paradigm of abundance, which is green and sustainable. It creates empowerment through abundance. It promotes independence. It is based in genuine power because when there is no scarcity, that obviates the need for aggression to control resources. It promotes the integral worldview that we are a part of the balance of nature. We are a part of nature. We do not own it to exploit. It promotes human evolutionary progression. It is moral, which means that it is in harmony with spiritual law, with the laws of morality, and it ultimately will lead to true freedom for humanity. But see, part of the problem is that a lot of people want to put the cart before the horse, so to speak. You can look at Tesla as the cart and the true understanding of freedom as the horse that has to lead the way to bring that new and sustainable energy paradigm into manifestation. So what is the problem? Why don't we have free energy? What is holding us back from it? Well, this is the part that may be difficult for a lot of people to hear. Why don't we have all of the wonderful innovations that Tesla envisioned? Why aren't we operating on a wireless world, not on fossil fuels and the dependency that goes along with it? Why hasn't Tesla's vision for the future already come about? It's not because we don't have the technology to do it or the know-how, okay? There's another deeper, much more deeply seated psychological reason that we have not given birth to this new energy paradigm yet. And Tesla can give us a hint as to, what we really need to understand. He said that peace can only come as a natural consequence of universal enlightenment. Now, people have a different idea of what enlightenment means, and I'm going to hope to shed some light upon that. I like to say that free energy can only come as a natural consequence of universal spiritual enlightenment. And again, that's the state that we have to create internally first before we're ever going to manifest the external reality that we say we want to see, that is our claim. Things need to change in order for that to happen. But what, in fact, needs to change? Deeply held belief systems need to change. There needs to be a paradigm shift. A way of seeing the world needs to go away. And a
And I think that like people, like this is so important, and I know that this is why he's saying it, but I just don't think it can be understated because people, I guess one of the, and I'm sure I'm as guilty as this as anyone, but I find so many people in this movement that think that they are think that, oh yeah, of course, we've got to change the way we think, but then no one actually does it. No one's got the tools to do it. Again, the shadow work course, but it's like everyone just goes, oh yeah, everyone's going to change their mind. Okay, next, and then like there's cognitive dissonance as to what that entails. It does actually entail, shifting our worldview, going through a worldview healing process ourselves, so then we can actually grasp what it means to not extract, like not, dominate nature, so to speak, and to work with the principles of nature to have economic systems and technology and energy systems which are all aligned with that.
New way of seeing the world needs to be born into existence within each one of us. That is a paradigm shift or an ascension in human consciousness, coming out of darkness and rising into the light.
And so just to nitpick some things here. So George Cavassalis would talk about the ascension processes, like the ascension deception. And this is just kind of words, but words are important. He would talk about like, going into yourself rather than raising. Just there's a slight difference there.
Paradigm shift has requirements. It does not magically just take place. There is will and effort that is involved. Okay? So what are these requirements? What, in fact, must change? And here's where the difficulty is going to be coming in for some people here in the audience today. There are two world religions, universal religions, I call them, that are ultimately holding humanity back from the manifestation of free energy. For free energy to emerge, these religions must be completely abandoned. And people may be very shocked when they hear what these religions in fact are, because it is not what you think. It is not what you are thinking of as religion. And in that sense, we need to define what I mean by the word religion. Religion is a system of control that is based in an unchallenged dogmatic belief system. Religion, the etymology of the word, comes from the Latin language. The word relegare, the verb relegare in Latin, means to tie back, to hold back, to thwart from forward progress, or to bind by tying. Okay? So what is in fact being held back is the progress of our understanding of the way the laws of the universe actually work. We are being held back from an understanding of truth. And the progress is all in the mind that is being held back. We are being mentally and psychologically held back. This is the first religion, the universal world religion known as money. Money is a belief-based system of control that is built upon the fear of scarcity, which is purposefully designed to limit access to energy. That is what money is designed for. It is designed to limit access to energy so that we operate on a scarcity mindset and worldview instead of one that is based in abundance. That is the first universal world religion that almost every being on this planet believes in, unquestioningly. The second world religion, the universal world religion that is almost as universally believed in as money, is the erroneous concept known as authority. Authority is an illusion of a diseased human psyche that is based entirely in violence and is built upon the erroneous and dogmatic belief that some people are masters who have the moral right to issue commands, while other people are slaves who have a moral obligation to obey these masters. That is the religion known as authority, and it is a false religion. The world religions, money and authority, this is the structure that it represents. It's a hierarchical, compartmentalized structure in which we are ruled by the god known as money. Below that are the people who say, we rule you, the authoritarians. Below that, the people who say, we fool you. These are the people who propagate standard traditional world religions and New Age movement. And below that, the people who shoot at us if we disagree with the authoritarian religions. And below that, the people who profit off of it and think that it's all okay for this immoral violence to continue unabated. And below them, all the people who uphold the system through their actual energy and work. This is the system of the world, ladies and gentlemen. Whether you recognize that or not, there it is, and that is what is taking place. This authoritarianism that is inherent to humanity's current worldview and social structure is completely antithetical. That means diametrically opposed to the rights and freedoms of the individual. Those who have become bound to an authoritarian worldview gradually lose their ability to display free thinking, engage in civic discourse, and even be able to envisage the notion of true freedom. The imagination is stifled, and they cannot even envision a way out of their current trap. Through
imaginal cells, baby. That's actually came up in my study of indigenous oral wisdom, actually. The imaginal cells, the imagination and the dream time, it kind of works a different part of the brain. And, imagination, as Passio gets into in some of his presentations, is a key to develop.
Fear, scarcity, and our own acquiescence. These two universal false religions keep us rooted into the base brain. They keep us in the reptile brain, the lower brain, which is the brainstem and cerebellum. This is all fight or flight mechanisms, okay? Pure survival, the reptile brain. We are not operating from a place of emotions or empathy, let alone a place of higher order thinking and reason, which is brought about by the balance of the human brain or the neocortex. That's what scarcity ultimately does. It keeps us in the reptilian complex of the mind. In such a fear-based and fight or flight state of consciousness, humanity has become collectively incapable of truly creative and liberating thinking, which is also known as human imagination. We are operating in a cage for the mind, collectively, and we need to get out of it.
Yeah, this is very true.
Adherence to the religions of money and authority blocked the implementation of Tesla's work. And here are three of Tesla's main funders: Nathan Rothschild of the Rothschild dynasty, J.P. Morgan, of course, who funded the Wardenclyffe Project, along with John Jacob Astor, one of Tesla's other main financiers, who, as we all know, pulled their funding when Tesla wanted to do something that was truly liberating for humanity that these psychopaths could not control. But you know, who followed those orders? Those orders came down to military men, followers of orders, who decided on those orders to destroy the Wardenclyffe Tower so that it could not be studied and understood further and preserved for posterity, and hopefully be activated at some future point so that we could really move into a sustainable future as far as energy was concerned. Order followers did that. Adherence to the religion of authority. To this day, adherents of the religions of money and authority still block the implementation of this work. And they don't care who they have to exploit, or even if they have to destroy the very living, dynamic energy system upon which we all depend for life, called the earth itself. You know, profit above people, profit above the earth. To this day, these adherents are polluting the very system upon which we all depend for life, continuously, and we're letting them do it. You know, how quickly we forget about things like the Gulf oil spill as soon as the media stops talking about it. We have such a short attention span. See, it's all about profit, all about worshiping at the altar of mammon. And that's where they want us. They want us in their mindset. They want to give us a watered down version of the way that the psychopaths at the top level think. You know, if you're saying, is what I'm basically saying, this is a conspiracy? Absolutely, I'm saying that. But I'm not here to talk about the people who are ultimately in charge of that worldwide conspiracy. You know, that's a whole nother lecture entirely. I'm talking about the systems of belief in the bulk of humanity that prop it up and make it able to continue to go on unchallenged. That's true for the majority of the people of this world, as painful as it is. You know, and if that's what our God is, expect to remain in a cage for a long, long time. If you put that God over the universal God of all creation, then my personal opinion is that we deserve what we get. And we don't deserve anything better than what we have right now, as long as that remains our highest value system. Imperialism. This is what the worshipers of the religion of authority, those who worship at the altar of authority and are order followers. You know, if you don't believe that this slide is true and this is what we're really doing, and that we're attacking other nations to take resources because we think we should have it at their expense, you know, I think you're a very naive person if you don't think that's the main motivating factor personally. Worshipping at the altars of money and authority, most so-called modern science is being used to perpetuate control, greed, and hegemony, rather than what Tesla wisely told us that science should be used for, the betterment of humanity. You know, it's about making more effective weapons of destruction and controlling people through media and food and surveillance systems, etc. That's the cutting edge of science today, not the betterment of humanity and using it for liberating purposes, unfortunately. You know, I think if Tesla was here, and I do believe that Tesla is here in spirit, absolutely. I think he would be telling us one thing, and he would say it in two words. He would say, get out. And he would mean get out of the mind control, get out of the head cage, get out of the systems of illusory belief that do not serve who we are. That's what Tesla's message would be if he were here today. He would tell us that until we come together in a universal spirit of enlightenment and oneness and get out of the separation worldview and get out of these completely illusory religions that have owned our minds for thousands of years, we're never going to have his implementation of free energy or any other implementation of free energy for that matter.
Well,
and
we certainly need to change that in a handful of years at best, if that is indeed the case.
If we ever want to see this headline come true, what we ultimately need to do is turn within, look within, ask ourselves, do our systems of belief serve who we are and what we say we want? Or are we in internal opposition to what we say we want through what's going on in here and in here? And with that being said, I think Tesla would have told every one of us that it is all up to the individual. The answer lies in the reflection that you see in that device. That's where the answer lies. Ultimately, what we each need to do is look within ourselves, develop a newfound sense of self-respect, and free our minds. When we do that, the stars are the limit. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you very much. Thank you. One more thing that I want to ask Mark. Mark have every year conference.
Okay, so
We all know the vision that Tesla had planned for the world, free energy and free communications. And had his vision come true, the world would be a lot different of a place today. Well, what I want to talk
So this is the dark side of Tesla technology now that I wanted to show you originally.
about here today is how some of Tesla's greatest inventions that we think never came to fruition actually have come to fruition, but in the hands of people who he never intended that technology to be in the hands of, and has been used in ways that Tesla never intended to be used. And this is what it's been used to do, to create a world that is basically on lockdown and under complete control. To understand how Tesla's technology was weaponized, we have to understand two main points of Tesla's experiments and research. And that is his experiments in vibration and resonance and his experimentation with scalar wave technology, which I'll get into in a bit. Tesla's experiments with vibration and resonance is this section, and Tesla is renowned for his extensive experiments with mechanical vibrations and resonance. In 1898, he was experimenting with an electromagnetic oscillator. Attaching the oscillator to a structural beam of his loft building, Tesla turned it on and began making observations and taking notes. Unfortunately, Tesla was unaware that amplified vibrations from the oscillator were traveling through the beam and into the substructure of Manhattan in all directions. Nearby buildings shook, windows shattered, and people poured into the streets believing an earthquake was taking place. Finally, realizing what was happening, Tesla smashed the oscillator and put an end to the experiment. Tesla later described another experiment he conducted with a mechanical oscillator about the size of an alarm clock. He attached it to a steel beam which was 2 feet long and 2 inches thick. Tesla described the results. For a long time, nothing happened, but at last, the great steel link began to tremble, increased its trembling until it dilated and contracted like a beating heart and finally broke. Sledgehammers could not have done it, but a fusillade of taps, none of which would have harmed a baby, did it. Now imagine a steel beam 2 feet long and 2 inches thick. And Tesla broke that with a simple mechanical oscillator. He decided to take his experiments with vibration and resonance to a new level by attaching one of these oscillators to a steel beam of a partially constructed skyscraper near Wall Street. He described the experiment. In a few minutes, I could feel the beam trembling. Gradually, the trembling increased in intensity and extended throughout the whole great mass of steel. Finally, the structure began to creak and weave, and the steel workers came down to the ground panic-stricken, believing there had been an earthquake. Rumors spread that the building was about to fall. Before anything serious happened, I took off the vibrator, put it in my pocket, and went away. But if I had kept on 10 minutes more, I could have laid that building flat in the street. And with the same vibrator, I could drop the Brooklyn Bridge in less than an hour. This is with a simple mechanical oscillator. Tesla continuously touted the awesome potential of mechanical resonance. He once told newspaper reporters that, using one of his oscillator devices, he would be able to, quote, reduce the Empire State Building to a tangled mass of wreckage in a very short time. Pay attention to this part of the description, folks. First, the outer stone coating of the skyscraper would be hurled off. Then the whole vast skeleton of steel, the pride and glory of the Manhattan skyline, would collapse. The next part of Tesla's technology that we have to understand that has been essentially used in ways it was never intended to be used by the great inventor was scalar waves. Tesla was the rediscoverer of scalar waves. In 1899, Tesla rediscovered scalar waves and conducted experiments with them in his laboratory in Colorado Springs. Scalar waves flow at right angles to electromagnetic waves. They're considered to be finer than gamma rays or X-rays. They belong to the subtle gravitational field and are also known as gravitic waves or longitudinal waves. Many scientists and researchers today refer to them simply as Tesla waves. As a result
If you want to learn more about this, I recommend the channels Ashton Forbes and then also Bob Greenyer from the Martin Fleischmann Memorial Project is his YouTube handle. They go deep into the weeds on the science.
Of his Colorado Springs experiments, Tesla learned how to harness scalar waves from one transmitter to another without using any wires. Tesla later, of course, built a prototype of this magnifying transmitter at Shoreham, Long Island, New York. As we all know, Tesla's funding for this project was revoked after his main financial backer, JP Morgan, realized that Tesla's world wireless system would destroy his business profits by allowing people to tap into quote-unquote free energy at no cost. Tesla later discovered that scalar energy becomes bottled from the intersection of two scalar waves. Through interferometry, a technique of crossing scalar wave beams, large standing waves could be combined to produce a focused beam of extremely powerful energy. Several scalar waves sent from different transmitters could also be combined by this technique of interferometry to produce a plasma bottle of very high contained energy. This bottle or shield, it became known as a Tesla shield, could be moved around the planet at will, and the bottled energy could even be detonated remotely. If detonated in the Earth, an earthquake would be the result. If detonated in a building or a city, the result would be a violent explosion akin to a miniature nuclear explosion without any resulting radiation, which would
MH370, anyone?
disintegrate all matter within the quote-unquote bottle. And there's a newspaper clipping regarding Tesla's so-called death ray, death beam. Tesla's so-called death ray could literally project the energy of a nuclear warhead and direct it to any location in the world. Some say the massive explosion in Tunguska, Siberia in 1908 may have been due to a test of this technology. The force of the Tunguska explosion was estimated to have been 10 to 15 megatons. The blast flattened 500,000 acres of forest. It is conjectured that Tesla may have been trying to break ice at the polar circle during this test and may have overshot his target. Tesla considered further experimentation with scalar wave technology too dangerous for obvious reasons. He knew that scalar waves could be used to create man-made earthquakes or to create remote disintegration weapons. This is why he made the decision before his death to divide his lifelong research over multiple locations in different countries. That way, no one country could gain a power advantage over the rest of the world by weaponizing technology based on his research. After his death in 1943, the FBI and other intelligence agencies in the United States were actively involved in confiscating and suppressing many of Tesla's documents, including plans for his, quote, death ray weapon and his earthquake machine, deeming them top secret lest they fall into, quote, enemy hands. And it is my contention that this technology did, in fact, fall into enemy hands called the United States government. And it was used on September 11th, 2001. Now, before you scoff at this, take a look at some of the evidence I'll present here today. The first thing I'll ask people is, if you never saw the events of 2011 or heard the official explanations as were given to us by the government and the mainstream media, and you took a look at these following pictures, would you yourself describe that as a collapse? No way. Or would you look at that and say, that is more akin to an explosion, a massive explosion, in fact, a disintegration? Are we witnessing a collapse there, or is that the building being disintegrated? What kind of energy is required? As scientists who may be out there listening, is the potential energy in a building of the mass of the World Trade Center and the force due to gravity and some burning kerosene enough to produce that kind of kinetic energy? once again, the question I ask people to honestly ask themselves, if you did not hear the official narrative and knew nothing about the events of that day, would you describe what you are seeing there as a collapse? That's all I ask. This is a very brilliant woman who I highly suggest everyone really look into the empirical data that she has presented in her book. This is Dr. Judy Wood. She wrote a book called Where Did the Towers Go? Evidence of Directed Free Energy Technology on 9/11. Everybody in this room should read this book and pay close attention to the evidence that Judy Wood presents. And she doesn't really jump to a lot of conclusions. The book is really a book of evidence that she presents. I highly recommend people checking it out. Here is another big part of the evidence, and I want to recall your attention to when Tesla said if he let his oscillator go, it would rip away the stone structure, or the concrete structure of the building first, then it would disintegrate the steel and bring it down in a collapse. This video is Judy Wood speaking about a phenomenon that was observed in World Trade Center 1 when it collapsed, called the spire, which was 70 stories of steel that remained standing after the concrete structure peeled away like a banana.
Now we're going to look from B1 and B2 positions, as well as from C, at what's referred to as the spire. There's that clump of core columns from Tower 1 that seems to remain just a little bit after the rest and then turns to dust. I'm sort of expecting that or suspicious that is right above where those 14 people survived, who thought they would have been crushed and looked up and saw blue sky. Here's Tower 1 coming apart, and it peels away like peeling a banana, and left with these little spires sticking up. That's about 700 feet tall. It's got to be pretty strong to be standing unsupported that tall. Here's building 7, which is a 47-story building. It's like 650 feet tall, approximately. This has got to be over that. And here's a closer view, and then it starts to drop down and kind of faints, turns to dust. Now, if that thing tipped over, it would take out a few blocks worth of buildings. How's it going to go straight down? You got a 700-foot hole in the ground dropping into? Okay, for argument's sake, let's pretend we do have a 700-foot hole we're going to drop it into. And you're saying that that's dust that shook off it that settled back here? That's blue sky around that. That's not dust gradually settling. If dust is that fine to hang in the air, it wouldn't be settled on it in that amount of time. So we know it doesn't have much time at all for dust to settle on it.
Now pay very close attention to this part coming up where they show the disintegration of the spire.
You'll just faint. Just faints and dustifies. Pretty neat trick. Now we're going to look at still frames from yet a different position. Remember, it peels away like a banana, leaves it exposed. Blue sky, crisp edges. That's not dust settling on it. And then it comes to the point where it no longer has crisp edges and dustifies.
Those were core columns.
Now we're going to look at it from across the river.
Some of the thickest steel beams ever manufactured in North America.
You can see it turning to dust. You know, it isn't tipping over in any particular direction.
Also, when you look at the debris pile, there's not enough matter to account for the mass of the buildings.
The cloud is sort of wrapping around this building. It's a little bit more wrapped around. So you can tell there's not much time has passed between those two images.
Here are those core columns still standing, 700 feet in the air. Is that a collapse or a disintegration? People will ask why. That's the big question whenever you bring up that this may have been a deliberately pre-planned event. And I would say there's lots of reasons for false flag terror attacks, for false flag terror events. First of all, it's to inject fear into the public consciousness. When people are in fear, they don't make good decision-making processes, and they're willing to listen to whatever a so-called savior comes along and tries to tell them to do, first of all. Well, we've gone into other countries and waged wars of aggression to seize resources. You know, this so-called never-ending war on terror and the fear that it produces, a whole new department of Homeland Security, akin to the Gestapo of Nazi Germany. You know, all the subsequent losses of civil liberties that went along with it and the rising militarization of the police. There's lots of reasons for false flag attacks. Again, I highly recommend everyone to check out this book by Judy Wood, Where Did the Towers Go? Her research is great. She also has a phenomenal YouTube video called The New Hiroshima, which I highly recommend. For the more technically inclined and scientific among us, this is a gentleman whose work I highly recommend, Dr. Thomas Bearden. And he has done extensive work about scalar interferometry. Also, you can look at how this technology can be weaponized in different ways, such as modification of weather and the production of artificial earthquakes. If you don't know about HAARP, I'm sure most people here do. It's the High Altitude Active Auroral Research Project in Alaska. It's another thing to definitely research when it comes to how scalar wave technology has been used for all the wrong reasons. And for more information on false flag events, false flag terror events, and how they have been historically used to sway populations in a certain direction, you could check. If we're ever going to see Tesla's technology used for the right reasons, the way the great inventor envisioned them for our world, as freeing technologies that would unite people, we have to understand what the potential of this technology was. And that means even looking at all the horrible ways that it could be used in the wrong hands. I think the real answer is to truly educate people about what is possible and to truly educate our young about what Tesla really wanted to do with these technologies. And that starts with the education in the school systems, teaching children about Tesla, his visions for our world, and what he really wanted to accomplish. And his legacy is left unfinished for us to complete and for us to do it in the right way toward freedom and the advancement of humanity. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much for your kind attention.
So that is Mark Passio. Now, there's a few different directions I could go with this, but you know, there's plenty of stuff out there that goes into Tesla. But you know, what I want to talk about is the mindset shift, right? And so there's a lot going on right now with these Aneutronic Fusion companies. You know, Ashton Forbes talks about this, helium fusion. But really, I think that one of the key points here is the psychological, the occult, the use of weaponry against people, people's rights being, I don't know if that's the right term, like being taken away or abused. Given that, you know, technology is in use against the world don't know about it. And then also the kind of the events and narratives are shaped with media control. So our ability to make sense of reality is a key one here. And so I'm going to get into the Judy Wood stuff. And yes, we can take a very technical approach to Tesla. And I'm not the person for that, if I'm being honest with you. You can go and learn the science from people like Ashton and Bob Greenyer. That's not what I'm here to do. But what I did want to do now is go on a slight detour. Let's watch a 30-minute documentary on Mark Passio, and we can see these whole different, you know, as someone that's like studied all of these different esoteric occult fields for 20 years, you know, alternative history, all of that. And he has a perspective that's more integrative, and also some pretty harsh words for, not harsh, but straight words on where reality is right now, and then we can get into a bit of a deep dive into Dr. Judy Wood's work. So let's have a look here. There's a documentary on Mike Passio by T. Snyder, I believe.
Is the shoulder twitch involuntary?
I just get uncomfortable while I'm driving.
Okay.
And I tend to just do that. Yeah, it's kind of aggravating. It's like I just have I carry all my tension in my neck and upper shoulder blades, and when I get aggravated, it just starts tensing up.
I hear you. I do that too.
And so I just try to just like work it out by moving.
So you grew up around here?
Me, I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is like, we're in South Philly right now. This is called East Passio, and that's my old neighborhood where I grew up. So I grew up right around here.
It's interesting that your name's so close to where you grew up.
Mm-hmm. Passio, yeah.
What other kind of like overlays in that way have kind of popped up over the course of your life? Correspondence between like name, what you do, like Mark the name being like what's posted on your fridge. That's a really interesting insight.
Right. Yeah. Warrior. Yep. Mark Passio literally means suffering warrior. And I would say that perfectly describes my life.
Freedom, man. That's what it's all about. You've got to groove on freedom, like the good book says.
Welcome. You are listening to What on Earth is Happening. This show will discuss the topics of human consciousness, mind.
And if you want to just stay on with the 9/11 and emergent technology and the Dr. Judy Wood stuff, you can skip to that part where we get to that.
Mind control, natural law, the occult, and all issues that affect the freedom of the people of Earth. What on Earth is Happening will endeavor to shine light upon the darkness of our world and to offer empowering solutions to the problems we face as humanity approaches its critical moment of choice. And now, here is your host, Mark Passio.
Okay. So, yeah, some people know this, but a lot don't. I'm a pro wrestling fan. That's my guilty pleasure when I'm done my work for the day. I like the style of acting that comes into play in pro wrestling. It's called kayfabe. It means you're trying to make it look real, like you're real adversaries, but you're not really trying to harm the so-called opponent. You're basically working for the same team, and it's just a show for the people who are watching, just like politics. So kayfabe and politics perfectly reflect each other.
really into wrestling when I was really young, before it even became WWE, like back in the WWF days.
So I always like that dynamic, and it shows you how the mind of the audience can be swayed on a dime. I look at, like, pro wrestling that I have a bunch of books on over there. This is like a guild. It's like they're like performers in a traveling show. And what they are using it for is to deceive, to manipulate, and ultimately to control and enslave. And that is how dark occultism really needs to be seen. Not as just going out into the woods and sacrificing animals in black robes. That's not what the dark occult is. The dark occult is very ancient, hidden psychology that a certain priest class in our world uses to completely deceive and manipulate the average dumb masses of people.
Weapons of mass destruction.
Draw attention to that man behind the curtain.
We create a pretend world. We are a global production company. We write the screenplay. We're the directors. We're the producers. We're the main actors. The world is our stage.
And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations.
So, I mean, the first thing I would say about this game is it, brings a lot of the negative symbolism to light. And I personally never liked the name Illuminati. I don't use it. I don't describe the enemies of humanity as such, because Illuminati is a Latin term meaning illuminated or enlightened. So these beings are not illuminated. They are not enlightened beings. They're trash. So I just refer to them as dark occultists, just evil psychopaths, mind control sorcerers. You could take your pick, psychopathic globalists, the network, as they call it. That's a good name. I think that's a better name than the Illuminati. It's just the network. That's all it is. It's a network of globalist psychopaths and Satanists.
The Church of Satan is an idea more than a building. It is a large network of people internationally who are committed to the ideas of Satanism.
We've been seeing a number of patients, basically young women, who in therapy are having these flashbacks, recovered memories of satanic abuse.
Our next guest was used also in worshiping the devil, participated in human sacrifice rituals and cannibalism. She says her family has been involved in rituals for generations.
My first memory of abuse that I can still remember was my father forcing me to fillet him in the cradle.
They threatened to kill my little girl.
That comes out of experimentation from Nazi doctors and experimentation in the intelligence community with mind control research, and involves medical technology and is very, very sophisticated.
Everything revolves around protecting the system, not we the people. Everything we see happening revolves around protecting the system.
Mind control, the ramifications of mind control are far-reaching, because I also know that under mind control, there's no free thought. Without free thought, there's no free will. Without God-given free will, there's no soul expression. What kind of a world peace can we have without any free will or any soul expression, without any spirituality?
We have before us
Satanism is an ancient occult religion comprised of diverse, interconnected networks of worldwide adherents. And I'm telling you, this is going on in so many more communities than you could possibly even understand. That it's omnipresent. It's omnipresent. Okay? And this is who these people who are self-loathing order followers are taking their orders from. And again, if you don't understand that, you're not awake. You only believe you're awake. You believe you have some understanding of what's going on this planet. I'm telling you, you don't know near the bottom of it. Not even close. A lot of little trinkets and artifacts from over the years that I collected. You know, this was my grandmother's. I painted it up. You know, some mushroom collectibles. This was Barb's Buddha. I gave him a place there. I've collected masks from all over, really all over the world, from people who have visited places, and you know, they'll say, "Oh, you want me to bring you back anything?" Yeah, get me a mask. I'll add it to my collection. Over here on this side, I would say are some of the most important occult books physically that I own. You know, some older books like from actual Masonic libraries. You know, some books that are out of print. You know, basically, this is the occult and esoteric section right around here. You know, I have whole sections dedicated to non-terrestrial intelligence and interaction with planet Earth. This would be mysticism, New Age, spirituality in general, from very eclectic and diverse sources and topics and opinions. There's shamanism and psychedelics here. You know, ancient, you know, building techniques and, you know, Stonehenge, stone circles, books on crop circles. Over here is basically the whole religion section, religion, mythology. You know, over here on this side is basic history. Anything from politics to world history to certain forms of conspiracy in history. You know, political and you know, financial mixed in. Yeah, so that's that section in general. This is what I call the freedom section. Some aspects of the esoteric, people who have written on freedom. You know, the trivium is in there. This is my whole section on Nazism. That spills over to there, where it continues with communism, a lot of communism books right down there. This is my dark occult section, these shelves here. Satanism, the dark occult, etc. Fucking torture. Sitting in this chair every day is a fucking torture. I'm Mark Passio of whatonearthishappening.com. Most people can't really handle my work, what I say or how I say it. The word government literally means to control the mind, because I don't sugarcoat things. They're lazy scumbag bags of shit. I just say them as they are. I know more about your religion than you know, moron. And I take a very no bullshit approach to things. I think these doctors and lawyers and politicians give a shit about you? They don't care about you at fucking all. And most people are soft, wishy-washy people that can't hear things like that. This is the result of just following orders. And take a good, hard, cold look at it, because you're going to see it. You're going to see it manifest in this world in your lifetime if we don't rapidly change the consciousness of a large portion of human beings on this planet. It can still be done, even at this late hour. It's a matter of will we do it, you know? I got started in the alternative research and publishing community around 2007. after I had experienced involvement with the real controllers behind the scenes of politics and law and law enforcement, etc., and realized that they were involved in Satanism and dark occultism. And I read everything I could by LaVey, who was the head of the Church of Satan at the time. This was back in the early 90s. And LaVey actually contacted me, and in the package that he sent me, in this manila envelope showed up at my house, he gave me an appointment to priesthood in the Church of Satan because of how well I understood and espoused the satanic ideology. So I did contact some of these people and essentially went to some of their grotto meetings and rituals. And that's where I really discovered that Satanism was something that was altogether something different than what I had originally thought it was, at least at an organized level. People will immediately hear that and then say, I'm trying to say the Church of Satan runs the world. No, I'm not. I'm saying that LaVey coalesced the satanic ideology for the average person. There were people in positions of power at these satanic grotto meetings and rituals. So there were bankers, lawyers, doctors, nurses. There were people there that were involved in the governor's administration of Pennsylvania at the time, and it went higher up than that. And others, judges were there, like circuit court judges, principals of schools, you name it. They had state troopers guarding the home where the rituals were at. Off-duty state troopers showing up, armed, stationed at the doors. They were working together as a tight-knit unit of a hierarchical worldwide network toward one common goal, and that goal was to increase their own collective power at the expense of everybody else's freedom. In other words, they wanted to become the kings of the world and enslave everybody else in the process. That was their goal. In the actual grotto meetings that I attended when I was members, they referred to Satanism as the old religion. They talked about it as a religion that has been here since humanity has existed and is a religion for the mindset of the rulers of humanity. And how it works is they give the average member of the population a lower level version of their mindset, such that the populace is inculcated. They become what I call de facto Satanists. And they don't even know that they're behaving in a satanic mindset. And then it leads into, the really dark areas that are slippery slopes into totalitarianism and slavery and ultimately death, because it is a death cult. You get into then the ideology of social Darwinism, the extrusion of animal behavior into the human social realm, meaning that the most ruthless and vicious of human beings should really rule the pecking order of human beings that is established. And then you finally come to the final solution, as it's been called, of eugenics, that the master class can ultimately decide who lives and who dies and can exterminate undesirables. And, that's really where we've come today. I refer to it as the technocratic occultocracy. That's who the rulers really are. They are an occult class.
I've been picking up that term as well from Mark Passio, great term. And I've been putting cartel on the end as well.
Not a patriarchy. They're not a matriarchy. It's not just an oligarchy. It's not ruled by financiers and bankers. They're just an arm of it. They're just one tentacle. It is ruled by occultists.
It is ruled by a hidden priest class with knowledge that the average individual has never even encountered, let alone understands. And they are a technocratic priest class. They are masters of technology, not necessarily themselves, but their entire modus operandi is centered around technological control. And that's why I call it a technocratic occultocracy. So that's their religion, and they act upon it. It's not just a belief system for them, it's a way of being in the world, it's a lifestyle. And they don't just talk about their beliefs, even among themselves. They have a very driven mindset, and they go out and they accomplish what they say they're going to do.
When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order, an order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN's founders.
Jay, tell me about yourself. Who are you? And come forward, please.
I'm Jay Parker. I'm a researcher and a natural law advocate.
And tell me about what you survived and how you're trying to spread word about it.
I survived monarch mind control, and I was in the MK Ultra program in the 1960s. By having a system like trauma-based mind control, through trauma and through abuse, you steer the consciousness.
And what does that entail? Just to give people a sense of the actual
It
method.
entails gang raping, torture, blood sacrifice rituals. I mean, Arden, Delaware in the 60s and the 70s, while I was there, was 90% dark occult. And, you live in a town that's 90% human sacrificing dark occult. So there's nowhere to run to. And then,
And what about the 10% who weren't dark occult? Are they just completely
were there
oblivious? Or?
So that the people who were dark occult could practice their persona of being normal, everyday Americans.
So how would you describe, like, Satanists? They just probably seem very friendly and nice, and until you get to know them.
They're excellent actors. I mean, look at the politicians in America.
Well, on that note, can you please touch on the overlap between Satanism, religion, pedophilia, religion, and how it's really a control mechanism?
I mean, why is it that the last pope, I forget, what's his name?
Francis.
Yeah, Francis just died.
And before
now, all the bishops, like 4 or 5 years ago, wanted a worldwide investigation into priesthood pedophilia. They all voted on this. And it passed. The measure passed. And they brought it to the Pope, a petition to the Pope. Please, let's have a full investigation of worldwide pedophilia in our priesthood. You know what Francis did? He said no. And what I'm saying to you is, you're going to church when the Pope says we don't want to investigate pedophiles that are hurting our Catholic children.
Look at the Pope before Francis, Benedict, Ratzinger. He is the guy who hid the finances and the money trail for all the pedophilia that was going on within the church's structure, and basically was rewarded with the popehood. He was rewarded with the papacy because he basically hid the paper trail of families being paid off by the church from its coffers to basically not criminally pursue pedophile priests.
What is at stake is more than one small country. It is a big idea. A new world order where diverse nations
are drawn together in common cause to achieve the universal aspirations of mankind: peace and security, freedom, and the rule of law.
So that's the basic elements of my background story. What my life story has become since then is trying to disseminate as much information in digital form out on the internet as possible to get people to understand this.
This is about doing it here, boots on the ground, streetwise spirituality.
This is an educational outreach operation. That's it. That's all it's for. And all the data is free. It's all out there for free. And quite frankly, has not gone well. Quite frankly, I don't expect it to go well. They told me exactly what the truth was about where the human mindset is at. It's in a state of perfect thrall. Some people have woken up. It's altogether a piss-poor effort. The freedom movement is junk. It's wishy-washy people who don't know enough, who don't have enough skills, who don't put skin in the game. That's why the freedom community sucks. It's a bunch of pranksters is what it is. It's pranksters. There's no adult. There's very few adults in this community. The rest are babyfied pranksters that have no life skills, don't know how to do anything, and want to remain anonymous cowards. And they're no help to our team. They're no help to our cause. They're no help to our effort. And I can't calm down. I can't just be calm about it. I can't. We shouldn't be being calm about it. We should be up in fucking motherfuckers' faces about it. I'm extremely disappointed at the progress of the truth movement. It's a shame. It's sad. They don't have an accurate understanding. They're still stuck in religion. They're still stuck in money. They're still stuck in politics. They're still stuck in the belief in authority. It's a tragic mess. It's clusterfuck. It is profoundly sad at a spiritual level. It's sad. It's not just angering. It's mournful would be the word that I would use. So that's how I feel almost every single day. And anybody that like looks at the state of the world and like you don't feel that way, or you think we're winning somehow, or things are improving drastically or rapidly, I think you belong in an insane asylum.
I'm not black-pilled, folks. I'm just very dejected over how poorly our performance has been in this battle.
And I just want to jump in here for people that are unfamiliar with Mark, because I know all different kinds of people will be watching this. If you've got an issue with the anger or with about how blunt he is or kind of anything like that, I would just, what I would say is I would recommend going through Mark's work from the beginning. And so at the time of recording this, I think I'm up to about episode 191 or something like that. So I'm almost up to the videos, which start around 200-ish, out of about 300-ish. And it's all work that builds from the very beginning and matures. So you've got to, start with the very foundations, obviously, and go from there. And so, I guess the point is that seeing the world for how it really is, we should be angry. And I know I'm in a calm voice now and chilled and all of that, but in all honesty, that's why I'm also bringing out all of this stuff. I've never wanted to be part of the truther community. I don't really, in all honesty, I don't really get along with people that well in this community so far. There's some good connections there, of course, but I don't know. So, and I think that all of these things coming to light is part of that. And so, as we all gain our own individual coherence, I guess we'll get more coherence on a more collective level. But this is why I'm bringing out this stuff on nuclear and 0-point energy and technology and the technocracy. I mean, that field I study it deeply as well, specifically crypto and blockchain, and so I'm very well aware of digital ID on the 16 social media bills in Australia. The laws tightening. I've been on land here as well, and in a couple of places, and from a distance a little bit, seeing the stuff that's going on a national and international level with some of these sovereign movements or indigenous groups or the Crown and all of this kind of stuff. And there is there's going to be destruction of the natural resources through illegal fuckery and mining, and then also we can see everyone's being pushed into nuclear as this kind of problem reaction solution. So it's going to be the whole new clean energy. Both sides will get on board with that. Why will they get on board with that? Because they're going to use it to hide the digital control grid powering AI. And it also allows them to it also allows them to power the have the national security of nuclear, because you can label everything as potential weaponry and that kind of thing, but it also allows you to have emergent technology in there like 0-point energy. And so they'll kind of like roll out like a dumbed down version to people while they've got this stuff going on. And we also know that they've already had it for 100 years and different private companies and so forth. And the transfer over from different Nazi kind of stuff going on. Joseph Farrell talks about that. But the part that I felt I was missing a lot of, at least in there's a whole lot more depth there, and that's what Mark is really good at fleshing out. And I feel like if I'm thinking about how Mark's feeling here, you've got to have some compassion. I know he's not asking for anything, but I'm just stating how I feel. It's kind of like I can understand how when you've studied something so much and when you really do know stuff, and other people may not know that, or you have so much care for life on Earth and people and animals and kind of that agape love, not in a hippie way, but just kind of like from a deep relationship with Mother Earth and sun and a natural world, and to have that true care. It's distressing to know that, and we know that on a number of levels, and not coming from a place of being black-pilled, but to see things for how they really are, so we can come in from an empowered place. And a lot of that comes down to shadow work and psychology. But when it is integrated within us, then we can start to take action in a direction which knows about these things that are going on. And so that's what resonates with me, because we can't create solutions and this is what Catherine Austin Fitts say, if we don't have like a proper map. Yeah.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubblegum.
White hats do their work out in the open in the modern world. It's like there's always going to be people coming together and their interests converge, and then they're going to basically plot and scheme in the shadows to get their agendas accomplished. And I think that goes on in just about every fraternal order and brotherhood and secret society network. So that's why I'm not a joiner of things like that.
Yeah, I think that's a really great way of putting it, and something that a lot of people just fail to recognize, that it's the time where
Join Cosmic Surfers, subscribe and like the video.
or if you're the light, you're supposed to be out in the open to illuminate everyone.
Absolutely. You know, don't play secret agent, man. Just say it plainly and clearly for other people to hear and understand. That's doing the great work.
What about the people who are still of the mindset that because people are so stupid, they aren't ready? That if you gave them this kind of knowledge or power, that they just fall.
They use it same. This is part of why I'm getting into this moral argument on 0 point energy for the exact same reason.
That's the Hermetic ideology. It's quite frankly a crock of shit. And not all Hermetics are, but that aspect of it is a crock of shit. Like, you know, if you don't understand that you got to be speaking at this point in the game, and you're doing more damage by not speaking than by telling people something potentially they could exploit, you don't understand how late it is. You know, we're in the 11th hour, 59 minute. The beauty of the tarot deck is absolutely unbelievable, and it is something that should be revered. The people who created the system of the tarot and what it explains were geniuses, and the system of symbolic correspondences is unmatched. If we have self-mastery, we're going to understand these forces. If we don't, and we remain in material world identification of materialism and lack of spirituality, we're not going to understand these forces, and we're going to create things that we don't want. And that's what this macrocosmic tree represents. All representative of the universe and its forces, and how we can create whatever reality we ultimately wish to create through our free will choices. So if we do nothing and we just let entropy have its way and evil have its way, essentially, this is where we end up. So this is being stuck in materialism, being stuck in physical world identification, judgment. And the angel, the universe, is calling us up out of our spiritual death. It's calling us into spiritual rebirth. So you see the dead, and again, that's what the dark occultists call human beings. They call us the dead because largely our species is spiritually dead. But we are being called up by the clarion call of the trumpet blower, the angel, to rise up out of our spiritual death. And then finally, at the very top of the macrocosmic tree of life is natural law, the justice card, the king of all creation, the force which ultimately governs everything that manifests in our world, natural law. Oh, God. People believe we're supposed to stack up the most comfort and pleasure before we die. That's the prevailing worldview here on this planet among the human population.
I think we can all agree that we've all struggled with that, or believe that, or have healed from that, or working to heal from that. I'll put my hand up for that one.
In order to shift that to a worldview that encompasses the rights and freedom of all people, we are here to do something to change the human condition from slavery to freedom. We are here to change the human condition from apathy and ignorance to intelligence and true responsibility. In order to shift the worldview to the point where we understand that the real purpose of life, cosmically, is to learn and grow in consciousness.
Thank you to the creators and also to my Passio. So now let's get into. I have not seen this myself. It's been a while since I've haven't seen this.
Are mental limitations. They're psychological and emotional limitations about what it is we're allowing ourselves to see about the nature of the universe. Moray and I had a very nice little chat about this, that it is a game.
The code. Let's see. Hey, you want to pull it off so I don't take off the.
How far do you want to go?
Yeah. There you go.
Most people don't realize that this lab coat originally came from. Does anyone know?
Once upon a time, there were 2 buildings, 2 towers, and then they went away. Well, 3rd tower and a 4th tower. This is all that was left. This is.
Thank you to the Global BEM channel. You can go watch this there. 9/11 Breakthrough Energy Technology with Dr. Judy Wood. That's what I was doing.
This is just that yellow corner of that building. And all that was left. To remind you what was there beforehand, and here's just that little corner is all that was left. This is the dawn of a new age. There exists some technology that can make a building of that size go away. It has the ability to direct energy in such a way to disrupt the molecular bonds. It's also, energy is directed as opposed to being kinetic energy. Kinetic energy like a wrecking ball or a missile or something solid. We're going to go through the data and see that you can eliminate about every kind of kinetic energy weapon. And we know this technology exists. The whole world saw it, even though they were told they saw something else. They saw what happened. And this indeed is a technology that can be used for free energy. It doesn't need to be used for evil purposes. Oops. Again, that's all that was left, just a story or two of that end. And would you believe it, that 14 people survived in there? So we're going to learn is that the towers didn't burn up, nor did they slam to the ground, but turned into dust in midair. That's not a collapse, that's dust squirting up. Why did so few people see that? Because they were told to see a collapse, maybe? There's 3 main things that keep people from seeing what's going on. Problem-solving skills, groupthink, peer pressure, and that they're terrified by the implications. We're going to just focus on the problem-solving aspect. If I tell you the answer is 27, am I right? Well, what's the question? What's the problem I'm solving? If you don't know the problem, how do you know if the answer is right or wrong? You first have to define a problem before you can solve it. And it can be referred to as a syntax error because the order matters. Like when doing this math, are you adding those numbers together first or multiplying these first? You'll end up with a different answer depending on how you group them. The same thing with crime solving or with problem solving. The order matters. So if you start out with a theory, we have thermite, or we have bombs, or we have airplanes, or whatever theory someone has, and they take their pick from this list of things, and then they go cherry picking and searching for the data that's going to support their theory. So in essence, what they've done is determine the problem. But what happens if it was something else that they didn't take into consideration? They'll never get to the right answer. And that actually is one of the key things in a cover-up. You get people arguing about guesses, about assumptions about what the problem is, and they never look at the problem. If you don't look at the problem, you can't solve it. So what they're using is a theory to determine what happened.
That came up in my Passio shadow workers course as well. And then also, obviously, the trivium process, right?
That's the wrong direction. We have to start out with what happened. You collect data, and the data always tells you what happened. And from that, you determine how it happened. But only after you first establish what happened can you determine how it happened. If you don't know what it is, you can't determine how it happened. For example, look at these beams falling with dust trailing behind them, opaque dust. Let's say you're going to impersonate one of those beams. So you cover yourself with dust and jump off the top of the building. From the ground up, would someone see that dust trailing off of you? No. You need more dust. Okay, let's say you get a couple of armloads of flour and eject it out as you're falling. Can you impersonate this? No, that's opaque dust. It initially blocked out all of the sunlight, 100% of the sunlight, so it was pitch black. It's very dense dust. And you come to the realization that these pieces of material are becoming dust. They're frothing up into dust as they fall. And they didn't hit the ground. But if you didn't know that these turn to dust, and you start out with an assumption, you wouldn't get to the right answer, because do you know of anything that could turn a building to dust in midair? Something turned it to dust in midair. So it's important to first determine what happened, then how it happened, and only then who did it or why they did it. But again, we're just going to focus on what happened. The towers didn't slam to the ground. If they had slammed to the ground, there'd be over 1 million tons of debris left stacked up in the ground. That didn't happen. Manhattan would have been flooded. Well, as we'll see, the towers were built in the Hudson River with a dike around them. If you slam 1 million tons of debris down onto the dike, you're going to break it. Didn't happen. And if you slammed 1 million tons of debris to the ground, it's going to make a thud. The seismic signals did not reflect that. Those are the 3 biggest issues, but there's a whole lot of others as well. But we'll focus on those initially. The lack of debris, the fact the bathtub wasn't damaged, and the low seismic recordings. There's all sorts of other things, and toasted cars, of course, is one of the favorite things. And then in the second part, I talk about other pieces of information, other data that shows more about what technology is involved. But remember, you first have to establish what happened. Lack of debris. Again, if over 1 million tons of debris slammed the ground, you'd see a pile of debris left over. All right, you go to work on a nice September morning. And there's Tower 1, there's Tower 2, and you work down here in Bankers Trust. So you're going to go into your office there in Bankers Trust, And then you're going to look out the window and see what you can see. Down here, you look out the window. What's it going to look like? That's looking out that window. Air-conditioned office, looking across the street, and whoops, where did the building go? This is right after 9/11. Tower 2 is basically missing. Tower 1 is missing over there. I think everyone would have to agree there's not enough stuff left piled up on the ground. So again, we were looking out there. Now we're going to look the other direction. And there's this main body goes missing. Just the north wing is left. The building just went missing. That's building 4. It was a 9-story building. So this is what was there beforehand, and it just basically all went away. And a satellite image shows, all sorts of holes that were in those buildings. The middle part of building 6 is gone. It looks like a post hole digger cored it out. You have holes over here on Liberty Street. Even some holes in Vesey Street. And notice again that north wing is remaining, but the main body's gone. And this is Bankers Trust, where you're looking out the window, seeing a non-building across the street. Few people talk about this building. It's a 22-story skyscraper. Well, it would be the tallest building in most small towns. It went away except for that last little corner. And building 7 over here as well. Every building with a WTC prefix was destroyed that day. So we're going to look at this direction. Now, a lot of people talk about hearing the BBC announce early that Building 7 went away. Well, CNN did the same thing for 1 Liberty Plaza, but it's still there. They just get excited and want to be the first to report. And we're going to go down and look on the ground and see what it looks like down in here. Looking at the front door of Tower 1. So here we are down on the ground. There's Tower 1, the north and south walls. Ambulance that was parked in front of the front door of Tower 1. It doesn't look clobbered by anything. This picture, I believe, was taken on 9/11, later in the day. I don't see any big steel beams on the ground. There's aluminum cladding. The towers were built with steel columns on the outside that were covered with aluminum cladding. And you see the aluminum cladding. The ambulance looks pretty good. This was the day after 9/11. Peter Jennings in the studio. Do we have sound? Uh-oh. Well, what Peter Jennings is saying is, George, we got it.
And have you been able to answer?
Start again. This is
Stephanopoulos is down in Lower Manhattan today. George, I don't know if you heard a little earlier me raise this question, which was actually raised by ABC's Jackie Judd as we look at these areas down below. And the video of where the towers used to stand and where is all the rubble gone. And have you been able to, is there any way you can answer that question?
I'm sorry, Peter, I didn't get the question.
Okay, I apologize. Jackie Judd and several other people keep asking us, when you look at where the towers used to stand, there is surprisingly so little rubble. Where did all the rubble go?
It's a very good question, Peter, and I have asked some people who've been doing some of the rescue and recovery work this morning. If you look behind me, you can see the very remains, the skeletal remains of the World Trade Center. And one volunteer, Robert Gerlinsky, explained to me the reason there's so little rubble is that all of it simply fell down into the ground and was pulverized, evaporated.
This is vital information. I really feel for George Stephanopoulos. He's got this job telling the world what's going on there, and that's the best he could do. And we humans tend to keep asking questions until we're given an answer. We don't stop to think if the answer makes sense. So what he is telling us is that it's obvious there's a big lack of material there. And here's an elevation map of what was left. And you see building 4 went missing, the holes in building 6. Here's a firefighter in stairwell B.
I heard this very, very loud noise above me. It was just a tremendous roar.
Right down here, while that picture was taken.
It was above, and it sounded like it was coming towards you, and then the wind, a very, very fierce wind, and my heart started lifting me up off the ground, and so that's when I crouched down. The next thing I just crouched down. I got to the corner of the staircase by the railing, and I just got as small as I could possibly get. Because I'm not a big guy to begin with, so fortunately I'm not. So I got in and I literally, well, I guess the best way to describe it, I tried to crawl into my fire helmet. That's what I wanted to do, just to protect myself. And I wasn't sure what was going on. I thought the building might be coming down, and I figured, okay, this could be it, and I was a little angry. I said, so like, damn it, like, why me? Why, I'm beautiful. I'm going to die in the World Trade Center on a beautiful summer morning. It's like a little denial and disbelief sets in, and so then I started getting hit with stuff. It was just debris was hitting me, and it went dark, and then the next thing was just total silence, nothing, no wind. No noise, no light, nothing. And then I started hearing noises. I started hearing like moaning, and guys were starting to communicate, yell out. These were the guys I was trapped with. They're calling out, who's there? You guys all right? Blah, 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 and this kind of thing. And I realized there was other people. I wasn't alone, because when you're alone in a situation like that, it's like existential isolation. It's like, and then when you find out you're with other people, it makes you feel a lot better. Even though you're in a very bad situation, at least there's other people. But then the strangest thing happened. This beam of sunlight came right in on us, like about 8 inches long, but it was clearly sunlight. It was all dirty, full of debris. It looked like pepper was floating around in it, sort of. But it was sunlight, and I'm like amazed now. It's a 110-story building above us, and I'm looking up at the sun.
He was right at the base of this building.
But when you came out, you had no idea where you were. There was no way to tell north, south, east, west. It was just the whole atmosphere was full of debris and papers and smoke, and there was no landmarks. There was no way to make a reference point. You couldn't see the sun anymore. The sun had gone away because the sunlight that had come in, that was gone, and so there was no way to tell which way you were going.
He was at the base of this building while this picture was being taken. And all 14 of them walked out on their own steam. Let's see. Here again is where they were. Jay Jonas was one of the ones with them. And said, I looked and said, guys, there used to be 106 floors above us, and now I'm seeing sunshine. There's nothing above us. That big building doesn't exist. Then later said, these are the biggest buildings in the world, and I didn't see one desk, one chair, one phone, nothing. Another survivor described walking out onto an empty football field. This is from the base here. This is what was there that went away. And that's where another 14 folks survived, in that little stub at the end of that building I showed. And they had that hole in building 6, where 50% approximately of building 6 was missing. And the main body of building 4 went missing.
Every time a floor hit another floor, it would not only make a noise, but it would cause tremendous vibration. So we're being bounced up and down off the floor, hearing this collapse coming closer and closer.
Mickey Cross was caught on the 2nd floor.
My helmet started flying off my head. I had forgotten to snap my helmet. So I grabbed my helmet. I guess instinctually, I just pulled myself down the corner.
The collapse of the North Tower created a massive rush of air.
I was blown down 6 stories down to the 1st floor, and all I can remember while I was being blown down was, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. There wasn't any time to think about anything.
The 110-story tower disintegrated in just 10 seconds.
It was that fast, yet for me it was kind of slow motion too at the same time. And I remember thinking to myself, I said, oh shit, this is it. We didn't make it.
Faced with what seemed like certain death, the trapped firemen thought their last thoughts and prepared to die.
In those 10 seconds, I was like, well, I'm 33. What have I done with my life? Worked almost all the time. My wife is going to, be a widow now. And I pretty much saw myself. Pretty much saw my funeral. I saw everybody at the wake at my funeral, and my parents and family there.
You think about everything, I guess, that you haven't done in your life, and you realize that, is this it? Are you going to make it out of here? And I was just too young, and I have too much more to do with my life than for this to be it.
I thought I was going to be dead in a few seconds, and I remember feeling, I hope this is fast, because I had a fear of being trapped, like say with a broken back or severely injured, and still being conscious and alive.
It was strange, but I was at peace when the collapse actually started. I said, all right, whatever's going to happen now is going to happen, and I hope it doesn't hurt too much, but the fear was gone.
The collapse of the North Tower killed over 1,300 people trapped inside the building. But some of the concrete walls encasing Stairway B had remained intact, and enclosed within them, 14 people were still alive. As they opened their eyes, it seemed as if a miracle had happened.
I could hear Mike. I could hear him groaning. I could hear him called out to me. I called out to him. So I knew he was alive.
From the neck up, I seemed okay, but everything else was just like pins and needles. I was slapping my leg with my arm.
Going down to the parking garage. We're in quite deep.
These are the first pictures of search crews underneath the World Trade Center, desperately looking for survivors.
That's not a collapsed parking garage. That's not even a full parking garage. It's an empty parking garage. And we had this left. You can see remains of Tower 1. Stairwell B, where those guys survived, and it's all at ground level. There was a lot of dirt brought in.
We were able to move 120 dump trucks out of the city last night, which will give you a sense of the work that was done overnight. So some of the debris has already been removed. More of it is being removed, and it'll be done by barge all throughout the day today.
Did you think it was going to get cleaned up in one day? Again, here's the ambulance picture and all that was left. Where's the debris of 1 million tons of building? One of the other survivors said this. We kept telling him we're in third floor, fourth floor, stairwell B, North Tower. Where are you? North Tower, stairwell B. Where are you? Stairwell B, North. Don't you know where North Tower is? They didn't know where the North Tower was because there's nothing left. And do you blame them? Here's right where those guys were, up in that little corner.
Hundreds more firemen were now arriving at the disaster area, but Captain Jay Jonas's Mayday messages were still not getting through. Trapped down in the remains of Stairway B, there was nothing else Jay could do.
We realize we can't get ourselves out. And that's a big mental leap for a fireman to take, because we're so used to being the people who are going in to rescue someone. Now, the roles are reversed, and you realize you're helpless yourself.
But with the survivors buried alive beneath a debris field that extended over 16 acres, it seemed they would need another miracle to save them. It was midday on 9/11, and in the chaos and confusion, Captain Jay Jonas's Mayday messages were still not being received. The firemen had no idea there was a pocket of survivors nearby. Then Jay again tries to make radio contact. Unexpectedly, this time his call is picked up. One of the officers coordinating rescue operations is Chief Nick Visconti. He responds to Jay Jonas's Mayday call.
Operation Lattice 6. All units stand by. Operation Lattice 6.
I got a radio transmission from Nick Visconti. I heard operations post to Lattice 6. Operations.
So I think I'm going to leave it there, guys. You can look up Judy Wood. It goes for another couple of hours, so this is already going for a couple of hours. I was going to watch it all, but you guys can go and watch it in your own time. It's called 9/11 Breakthrough Energy Technology, Dr. Judy Wood. And so, I wanted to wrap this up by, talking about this concept of breakthrough energy with real cases with 9/11 and MH370. You can look into those MH370. You can look into those independently. And then you can look into Mark Passio and the mindset shift associated with it, and the psychological kind of components. Have a good one, everyone. Peace out for now. Bye.